Tensions between China and Canada have escalated to new heights, sparking economic ripples that are being felt far beyond their borders. On October 1st, 2024, Canada imposed a 100% tariff on Chinese-made electric vehicles. Following that up with a 25% tariff on Chinese steel and aluminum products, which will take effect on October 15th. These actions align with similar steps taken by the US and the European Union, but have sparked immediate retaliation from Beijing, with serious implications for Canadian industries. What's at stake isn't just a matter of policy or diplomacy, it's about the livelihoods of people, entire industries, and the future of global trade. How did things get to this point? Why does China's latest move hit Canada where it hurts the most? And what does it mean for the rest of us? Let's break it down. Chapter 1. Canada's justification for tariffs. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau defended the tariffs, stating that China's unfair trade practices have jeopardized the global market, disadvantaging critical Canadian industries like auto manufacturing and metals. The Canadian government argues these tariffs are necessary to protect domestic sectors from China's state-backed overproduction and lax labor and environmental standards. Canadian-made EVs and steel, which support 125,000 auto jobs and over 130,000 positions in the steel and aluminum sectors, have been undercut by China's market dominance. In 2023, China exported $47.2 billion worth of EVs globally, a sharp rise from $0.2 billion in 2018. This growth has been fueled by extensive government subsidies, which many Canadian officials argue distort global competition. The 100% tariff applies to a broad range of EVs, including cars, trucks, buses, and delivery vans, adding to the existing 6.1% most favored nation tariff. It all began with a series of diplomatic clashes that have slowly escalated into a full-blown economic standoff. Relations between Canada and China have been on shaky ground since the arrest of Huawei's CFO Meng Wanzhou in Vancouver back in 2018, which led to a tit-for-tat retaliation by China, including the detention of Canadian citizens. What started as a political issue has now spilled over into the economic arena, with both countries taking jabs at each other's most sensitive industries. Chapter 2. China's strategic retaliation. The canola crisis. China's response was swift. The Chinese Ministry of Commerce launched an anti-dumping investigation into Canadian canola imports. This is a significant blow to Canada, the world's largest canola exporter, as half of its exports, valued at $3.47 billion in 2023, are destined for China. Canola is crucial for cooking oil and renewable fuel production in China. The Chinese government suspects Canadian exporters of dumping canola by selling it below fair market value, causing prices to fall while export volumes rise. This move recalls a 2019 trade spat when China blocked shipments from two major Canadian canola exporters, Richardson International and Viterra, crippling the industry until restrictions were lifted in 2022. At the time, Canada's canola exports to China plummeted from 4.87 million tons in 2018 to 1.54 million tons the following year. Chapter 3. The meat industry under siege. China didn't stop at canola. They also took aim at Canada's meat industry, another significant sector in the Canadian economy. In 2022, Canada exported approximately $2 billion worth of pork to China, establishing itself as a key supplier. This industry supports not just farmers, but also countless workers in the supply chain, from processing plants to logistics companies. By launching investigations into the quality and safety of Canadian meat products, China is signaling that it can and will use trade barriers as a tool of political leverage. These moves are hitting Canada right where it hurts most, putting its agricultural and food sectors at risk. How will this play out for the average Canadian household? The ripple effects could lead to job losses, lower market prices for these products, and a decrease in the overall economic growth of the country. Chapter 4. The bigger picture. China's global trade strategy. What's happening between Canada and China isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a broader strategy that China has been using globally. especially against countries that it sees as economically vulnerable or politically oppositional. We've seen similar moves with the European Union, where China has been quick to retaliate against proposed tariffs on its electric vehicles by investigating EU imports, including pork and dairy products. Let's talk numbers. In 2022, China imported $1.5 billion worth of pork products from Spain, making it the top European supplier. This dependency on European exports highlights the high stakes of a trade war. When Spain's Prime Minister, Pedro Sánchez, met with President Xi Jinping in 2024, he made a critical statement suggesting that the EU reconsider its position on these tariffs to avoid further economic damage. Chapter 5. The EU-China Trade Dynamics. The European Union's debate over tariffs on Chinese EVs reveals the deep divisions within the bloc. Countries like Germany, with its massive automotive industry, are wary of escalating trade tensions. German automakers sold 4.6 million vehicles in China in 2022, making it a crucial market for companies like Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz. Chancellor Olaf Scholz expressed concerns that tariffs could provoke retaliatory actions from China, threatening Germany's economic lifeblood. On the other hand, France and Italy support these tariffs, arguing that they are necessary to protect Europe's domestic manufacturers from what they perceive as unfair competition from China. French President Emmanuel Macron has been a vocal advocate for European sovereignty in key industries, emphasizing that without these protective measures, Europe risks losing its industrial base. Chapter 6. Global Currency Shifts: The Rise of the Yuan. In a move that could reshape global economics, the Chinese yuan has recently overtaken the US dollar in global payments by 2.5%. This shift challenges the long-standing dominance of the dollar as the world's reserve currency. The rise of the yuan is largely attributed to the efforts of China and its BRICS partners, who have been pushing for greater use of the yuan in international trade. Former US President Donald Trump has voiced his concerns about this development, stating that the US dollar is under siege and pledging to take measures to maintain its status. His remarks highlight the growing threat that a dominant yuan poses to American economic influence. Chapter 8. The impact of economic sanctions on the yuan's rise. One of the driving forces behind the yuan's rise has been the economic sanctions imposed on Russia. With these sanctions in place, Russia has turned to China for support, increasing its reliance on the yuan for international transactions. Ironically, American sanctions designed to isolate Russia economically have inadvertently strengthened the Chinese currency's position in global markets. The strategic partnership between China and Russia has shown the world how the yuan can be a viable alternative for international trade, slowly chipping away at the dominance of the US dollar. This alliance has broader implications for global trade dynamics, signaling a potential shift in the balance of economic power. Chapter 9. The EU's delayed vote and search for compromise. In light of these developments, the European Union has delayed its vote on the proposed tariffs to allow for further negotiations with China. This delay provides a window of opportunity for both sides to find common ground and avoid a damaging trade conflict that could have significant repercussions for the global economy. The European Commission has stated that while it remains open to a negotiated solution, any agreement must comply with WTO rules and effectively address the issue of subsidies. With Spain's recent shift in position and Germany's apprehension about economic retaliation, the EU faces a difficult decision that could shape its future trade relations with China. Chapter 10. Canada's Economic Dependency. We can't ignore the uncomfortable truth. Canada's economy is heavily dependent on China. In 2022, bilateral trade between Canada and China reached nearly 100 billion Canadian dollars. China is Canada's second largest trading partner, only behind the United States. And while the US relationship is the most critical, Canada cannot afford to alienate a market as large and as important as China. It's not just agriculture and automotive either. The Canadian energy sector, particularly in the oil and gas industry, also sees China as a major market. As Canada moves towards renewable energy, the need for rare earth elements, many of which are sourced from China, is growing. If China decides to limit access to these resources, it could derail Canada's energy transition plans and further entrench its dependence on fossil fuels. Chapter 11. The long-term geopolitical and economic consequences. As we consider the broader implications of these economic maneuvers, it's clear that the global landscape is shifting. China's ability to leverage its economic power to influence trade relations with countries like Canada and the EU signals a new era of geopolitical strategy. For countries like Canada, whose industries are directly affected, the choices made today could determine their economic resilience in the years to come. The rise of the yuan, the strategic alignment of BRICS nations, and China's aggressive trade policies all point to a future where economic power is no longer solely dominated by Western nations. The question now is whether countries like Canada, Germany, and even the United States can adapt to these new realities or risk being left behind. So what does all this mean for you? Whether you're a business owner, a worker in the automotive or agricultural industry, or just someone watching the global economy unfold, these changes will impact us all. The shifting trade dynamics, the rise of new currencies, and the evolving geopolitical strategies will shape the future of jobs, industries, and even the value of the money in our pockets. What do you think about these developments? Are you concerned about the rise of the yuan and its implications for the global economy? How do you think Canada should respond to China's economic aggression? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Before you go, make sure to hit that like button if you found this deep dive insightful. Subscribe to our channel to stay updated on the latest in global economics and geopolitics. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. We'll see you in the next video.